Kevin
This is
Bowen
Quentin
here.
Nelson. Just got
Don't
done
forget
kicking
to
it
listen
with
to
the
Fan
boys.
now
Make
on
sure you listen and
93.5
subscribe.
or 107.5 FM. And check out our latest coverage online at 1075thefan.com.
Brissette on a counter, gives off to Marlon Mack, cuts up field, patient run, spins out of a tackle, still going, he's at the 10, he's at the 5, looking for the pylon, and he is in! Touchdown, Marlon Mack! The best run you'll see all year! The Colts are in! It's 7-6 with a 13-yard run from Marlon Mack! There's the knee, and there's the win for the Colts. The Indianapolis Colts have won their 300th regular season game since moving to Indianapolis in 1984. They knock off the Jacksonville Jaguars 33-13.
Cake stands around as the Colts make sure their fans at least have a little bit of a break from fourth quarter drama with an impressive runaway 33-13 victory over the Jags. We said it all week, Joey Molinaro. Could the Colts bounce back again? Could they be resilient? Could they rebound? They've done it before under Frank Reich, and they did it again in a big, big way.
Yeah, and after that first drive by Jacksonville, or the first scoring drive by Jacksonville, it was kind of like, oh, God, what do we got? What's going on? And then a few big plays by Chris Ballard's guy, Jonathan Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Marlon Mack, who we'll get more into about the injury and everything. But it was impressive.
It was, and definitely an impressive second half. Putting the nail in the coffin, getting the team down, putting them away. Obviously, some really big injuries. It's amazing the injury situation now it's probably the worst I've seen it exiting a Sunday game all year, and it happens to fall in a short week. So that's not great. So we're going to touch a little bit on that, but we'll get into things I like, things I didn't like, as always. And it's just I see the stat line, Joey, of like Jacoby Brissette, leading passer, Jonathan Williams, leading rusher, Marcus Johnson, leading receiver.
I know.
Is that week 4 of the preseason?
Right.
No. The Colts just scored 33 points without T.Y. Hilton. The most points they've scored all season, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think you had 30 against Houston, I want to say. And, it's not always pretty when you play Jacksonville. And I think early on, clearly, it wasn't going to be pretty. And you had some tough moments there in the first half. But that 3rd and 19 play by Williams, I cannot reiterate that enough, how big of a play that was. Because you go through, not 3 and out, but if you punt on that first possession in the second half, Jacksonville, it feels like they're right in it. Maybe they establish Fournette a little bit more. Maybe they get him going. Maybe Foles doesn't throw those weird deep balls he continued to throw into like double coverage all game long.
I kept asking myself, I kept finding myself saying, how did this guy win a Super Bowl? How did he beat the New England Patriots in a Super Bowl?
In a shootout.
Yeah.
Not like
Crazy.
some sloppy, 14-10 game where you're relying on your defense, but the Colts got some great playmaking from their defense that we'll get into. But yeah, it's just, I think if we're learning some things about Frank Reich, it's that his teams don't let things snowball. It's not going to be all pretty, and it never is for 98% of NFL teams. But this season could have spiraled one way or the other after Miami. And on Sunday, you were able to keep the ship afloat when you got really banged up. And I think that's a credit to Chris Ballard, credit to Frank Reich, in that their kind of even-keel approach, I think, helps out big time in these situations. So you needed to bounce back. You needed to deliver. Winning by multiple scores was just kind of the cherry on top. And now you've set up a game on Thursday, which this will be our only podcast this week before we get into Houston on Thursday. But, Joey, I think the early numbers are the Colts have a 54% chance to make the playoffs right now.
Mm-hmm.
They win on Thursday. That goes up to like 84%. They lose. I think it goes all the way down to like 35. Like 50% chance for one game?
Right. We know. I mean, that we had this circled even before Andrew Luck retired.
Oh, yeah.
You had this game circled.
This was always the game of this was always the game of the year. And should we get into Keg Stand now, or should we get into it during Twitter questions?
I know we're going to get a lot in Twitter questions. So, I mean, your name on the show, you tell me. I'm down for whatever.
Let's wait.
Okay.
If the touchdown would have counted, we would have got into it now. But
Right.
still, we got to talk about the stand.
For sure. It's always nice on a Monday to start with things that you like. That means that the Colts won. And there was plenty to like about yesterday, and you can't really start anywhere else. But, hey, running the damn ball, and they did that at a historic fashion yesterday.
Yeah, CBS said first time ever that they had 200-yard rushers. Ended up being the fourth time ever the Colts have had 200-yard rushers in a game. I mean, think back to the Chuck Pagano days, Joey. 47 straight games without a 100-yard rusher.
Oh, yeah.
That number grew to 55. 55 straight games. Vic Ballard in Week 15 of the 2012 season, all the way until Frank Gore on a Thursday night in Houston, getting to 100 yards. 55 games. They go without a 100-yard rusher.
Especially for a coach that, we got to ground and pound. We got to be tough. We got to run. We got to ground and pound. Yeah, and so then that was even more of a weird happening.
Yeah, that's how Chuck said they're going to be built. That house never got built. What a performance by the rushing attack. And Marlon Mack should be commended, Joey, certainly, for that spin move. I mean, do people still play video games with a circle button? I mean, I grew up with PlayStation hitting the circle.
Oh, yeah.
People were saying, no, it's a B button.
Well, it depends if you have an Xbox or you have a PlayStation. PlayStation's a circle,
I never had an
Xbox is a
Xbox.
B. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So,
I got it. Okay, that makes sense. Shows my age.
Tomato.
Yeah. Whatever it was a spin cycle. It was nasty. It was beautiful, whatever you want to call it. Mack was tremendous. Jonathan Williams as well. But I feel like the most credit for this rushing performance, Joey, needs to go to the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
When you have two individual rushers go over 100 yards, that to me is even more of a compliment of the O-line. It wasn't just one runner getting hot and he goes for 200 yards or something like that. No, this is two separate guys getting over 100 yards. And we talked about it on last week's podcast. Your offensive line, with the standard that you grade them to, had been underwhelming in recent weeks. And this is when you needed them the most, because we all watched the first half. If the Colts got into a shootout and needed to pass it more, or they got behind, that O-line wasn't going to hold up in pass protection.
Yeah.
You just were not going to hold up. You had to run the football. Your wideouts were not winning downfield. We'll get into the passing efficiency a little bit later. And I thought your O-line was tremendous. Throw the tight ends into that group as well, because we've mentioned them as having some issues in protection. And, outside of Kansas City, we've kind of been waiting for the run game to do the heavy lifting, really ever since the first two games of the season. I mean, the Colts had averaged less than 4 yards per carry since those first two games, and they had over 7 a carry. I think it was 10 runs over 7, or 7 runs over 10 yards. I mean, that's when your offense isn't doing anything vertically, you still need chunk plays, and you found that in the run game. So, just an outstanding performance from that group, and let's mention Jonathan Williams. I mean, in terms of most meaningful players on your 53-man roster, he's probably 52 or 53. I mean, the guy is inactive virtually every week, but Chris Ballard has always loved him. Kind of the background on Williams, 5th-round pick out of Arkansas, was in a crowded backfield in college. I think Buffalo initially drafted him. Went to New Orleans. They had him active when Mark Ingram was suspended for the first 4 games last year. He gets very little run there. Comes to Indianapolis. The Colts have him inactive virtually every week. Bring him up to the 53-man roster just kind of as a compliment to him. Or I think maybe dressed him in a game just kind of as a compliment, because remember last year, Frank Reich barely used Jordan Wilkins late in the season. And you had Wilkins with an ankle injury on Sunday. Then Matt goes out early in the third quarter. And, it's one thing to say, oh, I prepare like a starter. You never know when your number's going to be called. That's all fine and well to say it. But acting upon it, I go back to that 3rd and 19 play, Joey. That play was supposed to be Nyheim Hines. Jonathan Williams had never run that. Frank Reich said all of a sudden the coaches look out there and they're like, oh, shit. He's not supposed to be in there. And they're like, do you want to burn a timeout on a 3rd and 19?
Sure.
Early,
second half,
early in the second half. And I don't know, maybe honestly, Jacksonville probably was like, who the hell is that? Is that a fullback, an H-back in the game? And Williams picks it up and
really turned the game.
I thought that was the play of the game. Mm-hmm. The Jacoby escape we can talk about and Marlon's big run, but again, I'm a big game flow guy, and there's so many games throughout 60 minutes that I think can determine things. And so Jonathan Williams, tremendous job. Marlon Mack continues to be a Pro Bowl runner this year. It's a shame he has the injury. We'll get into that. But kudos to Chris Ballard and Frank Reich for sticking with Jonathan Williams, knowing that attrition happens at running back. Mm-hmm. Hell, he could be your starter Thursday night.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's looking like that, right? Unless Wilkins,
right?
It
is, and we will touch on injuries just a little bit. But right now, there's a very real possibility. If you're in a deep fantasy league and you believe in the Colts offensive line, and you saw what Baltimore just did to Houston,
jeez,
you might bring up.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, bring up Jonathan Williams, but I always liked him in training camp. I feel like you and I kind of talked about that a few days of, Wilkins was out for a while during training camp, and it's kind of like, okay, you see why the Colts see something in Jonathan Williams, but it's hard because then he got hurt in the preseason as well. He suffered a hamstring injury, was out for a while. Ballard always liked him after contact. Thought he was a really good runner after contact. And, the Colts didn't make a move of any significance at running back this past offseason. Nothing in the draft, nothing in free agency outside of Spencer Ware. Spencer Ware came and went, and they're kind of like, all right, we're good. We're good. And Wilkins has been effective when he's been in there. Williams answered that bell and helped the Colts finish this game. But again, big kudos to the offensive line because they've been inconsistent, not as good as you need them to be. And they were outstanding. Outstanding on Sunday.
Defense also looked pretty outstanding in a lot of ways after, despite that first score that they gave up early, they came back. He had some plays on the ball that they made, and they were really able to shut out Leonard Fournette.
Plays on the ball. That stands out to me almost more so than what they did to Leonard Fournette, which I know some people might be like, well, that's stupid. But the job they did on Leonard Fournette was tremendous, holding him to under 3 yards per carry. And, he has a 10-yard runner to start the game. And outside of that, he does virtually nothing. But I go back to the plays on the ball, Joey. You had 10 passes defensed. 10. That is so many.
Yeah.
Marvell Tell with 3. Rock Ya-Sin with a couple. Hooker with a couple. Like, think back to early in the season when you weren't making those plays at the moment of truth and the point of attack, where you felt like you had good coverage and your opponent was just coming out with the 50-50 balls. The Colts made those plays yesterday, and I thought the secondary, all of them. Kenny Moore is the best tackler on this football team.
Yeah.
8 solos yesterday.
Did he have any wrestling in his background? He seems like one of those, in high school.
He looks like a stud wrestler.
I'm sure you had a cathedral. I know Ron Kelly, a lot of the DBs, or even linebackers, they were encouraged to wrestle, and some of them did.
Right.
Because it helped with tackling.
And then on the football field, they play so much bigger than their height and weight.
Right.
And that's more. 5'9", 180, and plays so much bigger than that. The plays in the open field, him as a sure tackler, stand out. But then, it's the blitzing sack, which is something you're going to need again on Thursday. He didn't play in the first meeting against Houston. Him and Malik Hooker were both out. Now you have them both back. The 4th down play, 4th and 4, you had just gone down there and scored. Jacksonville starting to move it again. If they score there and they make it 17-14, it's still kind of a back-and-forth game. And Kenny Moore reads the zone and gets his hand in there and makes a great play. Marvell Tell has really emerged lately. Should have had a pick. Rock Ya-Sin, gets hurt on the interception. Tried to play through it looked like, then got hurt again on another tackle. And then Hooker continues kind of that physical nature. Matt Eberflus, I was asking him a few weeks ago, what has gone into this kind of Malik Hooker near the line of scrimmage before the snap? Like, we aren't used to seeing that. And, Eberflus is like, we always kind of heard before we got here, center field, center field, center field. And yes, that's probably his strength. But if you want to be a versatile defense, you want to change things up, you need to move your guys around. And they've done that with Malik Hooker. So, great work by the defense. And obviously they haven't played a gauntlet of quarterbacks recently. but they've been really, really good in the red zone. What stands out to me about yesterday's performance, Jacksonville didn't take one snap in the red zone.
Wow.
They didn't have one snap inside of your 20-yard line.
Mm-hmm. So
you were good from freaking 20 to 20. And that's another step for this defense. So great work by Matt Eberflus and that bunch, and that's the recipe. You know, when you are as banged up as you are at receiver right now, you can't win shootouts. You got to be able to run it, and you got to be able to get off the field and kind of win the field position battle, and the Colts certainly did that.
One thing that's been really impressive about Jacoby Brissette, you know, there's a multitude of things, but every time I watch him, he seems to just have this innate ability to be able to escape pressure, get out of the pocket, not take a big sack, whether it be throwing the ball down the field or just getting 5 yards instead of losing 5 yards. And that was on full display yesterday as well.
You're spot on there. You were spot on. And I'm glad you said even throwing away the ball. I kind of forgot about that play. Miles Jack had him wrapped up. Would have been grounding, honestly, if he didn't get the ball back to the line of scrimmage. And he's so freaking strong, he throws it, 10 feet into the bench. Like, I probably underestimated that as well with him. He's incredibly tough. The team is obsessed with him. And he really protects the football well. I know there are 2 turnovers that'll go on his record from yesterday, or 1 turnover. Mark Lewinsky saves the day with that fumble recovery.
Game changer, yeah.
Dudes just don't recover fumbles, right? Like, how does IU not get that fumble in the Penn State game, and then how does Jacksonville not?
I know. I mean, they're trying to scoop and score there. So they said Lofton, whoever even said it on the broadcast, just fall on it.
Yeah. I think James Lofton's horrific, but yeah, I actually did agree with him. Shout out to our guy Michael Grady, great job.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Looking nice with the CBS jacket.
On
official. There. I was curious, Joey, coming into this game, how would Brissette look in the escape nature? That was one of my keys to the game because he's coming off the sprained MCL. Frank Reich had mentioned that him getting out of the pocket was not something they could check off in practice leading into the Miami game, a reason why he didn't play. And you're facing a great front. And you know your O-line struggled recently in pass protection. So Jacoby's going to have to make some stuff happen off script. And it was not all pretty for that passing efficiency at all on Sunday, but the 2 plays that he made off script, the Ebron toe tap, that was Jacoby escaping, Ebron doing an unbelievable job of keeping himself alive in the play and then making the toe tap on the sideline. That leads to a field goal. And then obviously, I think it should be the offensive play of the game. I know some people might want to give it to Marlon Mack in the spin cycle, but the 4th and goal touchdown to Marcus Johnson is the play of the game for me. Obviously you try the Quentin Nelson 3rd down. How bad was that carry by Quentin Nelson?
That was one thing that
fat guys don't tote the rock that well, but I mean.
Right. I mean, the celebration definitely overshadowed that in a good way, even though he didn't score. But, you look back at it, you're like, dude, get your big ass in the end zone.
Just that. The ball's not in the right hand. How the refs called that a touchdown. I'm like.
Right. When he came in.
I was like.
No way.
I'm like, there's no way that's a touchdown. I'm like, oh, God, what are they doing? Why is he in the air? Oh, my God, his legs are in the air. But on that 4th and goal, Nelson's not on the field. It was that weird rule about, a guy that's eligible to play before can't come in and be ineligible the very next snap. I didn't even know that was a rule. So Nelson's not in there. So clearly Frank Reich didn't feel comfortable running it with Joe Haggett left guard. And that play was doomed. Brissette is swallowed up. That play's going nowhere. Again, that's the 3rd and 19 drive. That's that drive.
Yeah.
Brissette escapes, rolls to his right, finds Marcus Johnson for the touchdown. Did you catch Frank Reich's emotion after that play?
He was hyped.
Hyped.
Yeah.
Frank Reich hyped. I'd love to hear him mic'd up. I'd love to be, Jacoby, that was so fiddlesticks good. Stinking good.
Did he get down to the pylon? It looked like he ran. It looked like he was down.
He ran down there.
Yeah.
He ran. He was inside the 30 or 20. I mean, he was running down there, and it was in a tremendous play by Jacoby Brissette.
Fastball on Jacoby.
Yeah.
Threading the needle right in there.
To Johnson. A.J. Bouye had pretty good coverage, it looked like, on that. So, Brissette, some inaccuracies certainly yesterday. Again, not all great by any means out of the passing offense. That's not all on him. The pass protection didn't help him, and the wide receivers continue to struggle winning one-on-one. But, it's that, Brian Hoyer's not making that play. That's the play that it goes into the you can't teach category of plays. And it just adds to why the Colts continue to love him and continue to think that, if you're going to ask me right now on November 18th, I think the Colts will stick with Jacoby Brissette and, build around him. And maybe they draft a quarterback in the middle-ish rounds and try and develop. But, that's just an outstanding play.
I'll go ahead and say it. A couple of those escapes yesterday, a lot of these escapes that we've seen this season, reminds me of a Big Ben.
Yeah. And we were, looking for comparisons earlier this year. Mm-hmm. I think you mentioned a bit of Big Ben, or maybe we had a listener mention Big Ben. Byron Leftwich was another thing. The thing that I think he's so good at is when he's escaping, he's still kind of making a higher percentage throw. Yes, he had the one fumble against Denver when he escaped. But for the most part, he's protected it well.
Yeah.
Once he's gotten out of avoiding that crisis. So I wanted to get that in there. The stat line will win Jacoby Brissette no awards, weekly awards. But that play, along with the Ebron toe tap, those are just plays that will go down in the box score as a simple 1-yard touchdown. It was a lot more than that.
Have to get to a few things that you didn't like, Kevin, even with a big win, and really can't avoid this at all. It's just, it is what it is. You talked about it off the top. The injuries right now for this team, really unfortunate.
Joe, as we sit here on Monday, I list 10 guys that I'll have my eye on this week for the Colts. 10 guys that could miss Thursday.
That's like back-to-back years on a short week on a Thursday night football game on the road where you've just been completely decimated.
I'm glad you brought that up. I would say the most injury noise out of a game all season just occurred, and now you're on a short week. Now, Houston, I guess, suffered some big injuries in their secondary. Lonnie Johnson got hurt. Justin Reed got hurt. Mike Adams suffered a concussion in warm-ups.
Wow.
I think he ran into somebody or something. So here's the list.
Taking the glasses off for this one.
I am. T.Y. Hilton calf. Paris Campbell hand, Jordan Wilkins ankle, Pierre Desir hamstring, Marlon Mack hand, Rock Yassin ankle, George Odom arm, Shaquille Taylor ankle, Mo Alley Cox thumb, and it looked like Kari Willis got banged up late. I'm not sure on a body part on that or if he was just winded or what, but I'm not even including Devin Funchess on that list, Joey. That's a long list. And particularly in the secondary.
Guys in there.
Yeah. Okay, Marlon Mack, fractured hand. We should know a little bit more later today, hopefully, or at least he's looking for, kind of multiple opinions just on how long he's going to be out. Is this a Paris Campbell thing? Campbell got hurt that Pittsburgh game, which was
November 3rd.
November 3rd. We are now... He doesn't sound like he'll be back until December 1st. So that's about a month. Are you looking at a month for Marlon Mack? It's right hand. I don't think that's good. Hands aren't good anyways. That's a more ball-dominant hand.
Mm-hmm.
And, think about Marlon Mack. What makes him so good?
Yep.
Stiff arm. He's doing the Heisman.
Yeah.
Can you do a Heisman with a club on? Can you play running back with a club on?
I don't think it'd be good for ball security.
No. High and tight takes on a whole different interpretation when you deal with that. So, that's obviously not good. Then you factor in Jordan Wilkins with the ankle. You just, Wilkins, it looked like he was questionable for the game. So, Wilkins, you think is close. Can he get ready for Thursday? Hilton. I'm not ruling him out just yet, but it's a dilemma of okay, he's done nothing in 3 weeks. You aren't practicing this week. You will not practice. You will do a walkthrough today, another walkthrough tomorrow. Maybe that's a walkthrough of the jog. Can you get Hilton off to the side, throwing with Chad Kelly? I don't know, something to maybe get him through a route tree and see if he can give it a go. Don't expect Paris Campbell. Don't expect Devin Funchess. Where the hell are we at with Pierre Desir?
Crazy.
He's practiced 3 times in the last 15 practices. Again, he was doing work with trainers late in the week. He wasn't ruled out, so I don't feel like it's not like he had a grade 2 hamstring and they're just like, oh yeah, Pierre Desir, you're not going to play for a month. No. They're like trying to test things out in a kind of a semi-weekly basis. But he's been out. And then, Rock Ya-Sin gets hurt on the interception. He's in a boot after the game. George Odom's in a sling with the left arm. Shaq Taylor has the ankle injury. Could your corners on Thursday night be Marvell Tell, Kenny Moore, and
Shaq Taylor?
Quincy.
Oh.
I mean, right? Who else?
Yeah. It's so weird seeing him on the sideline during a game. Like, I remember, I think it was after the 3rd and 19 play from Williams when he got hit out of bounds right there and right in front of the sideline. Sirianni, everybody's pumped, and then you got Wilson. He's kind of like,
He's spitting seeds.
No, just like he's excited, but I guess for me, I'm just looking at it as just like,
you should be on the field.
How excited is he?
Yeah. And, will we see Quincy Wilson react like Jonathan Williams reacted? Or will he react kind of like Deion Kane?
Mm-hmm.
And we can get into Deion Kane a little bit later. But, Joey, there's just a lot of injuries to watch, man. Mo Alley Cox, right thumb. This is where you have to start thinking about things. IR. You put any of these guys on IR? Are any of them that severe? If any of these guys are out 3 to 4 weeks, you might have to put them on IR just for a roster number standpoint. Obviously, Chad Kelly, you would think would be moved. Taken off the 53 because you need a roster spot there. But, you could be looking at, 7 inactives all because of injury. Are you dressing guys that are only dressing for emergency situations? Like, this is going to be a very interesting 72 hours in dealing with roster moves and all those things. So that's the biggest negative from this game is injuries. If there's a little silver lining, it was a runaway victory, so Leonard, Hooker, and Houston didn't have to play a whole lot late.
Mm-hmm.
But still, you are really banged up at wideout, really banged up in the secondary, which, again, that's kind of Houston. Houston's got a little depth at wideout. Hopkins and Stills and Kuti, and we'll see if Will Fuller gives it a go. That's no guarantee, but, they still got some guys that they can do some things vertically if that pass rush isn't getting home.
Another conversation, though, about Thursday Night Football. It always seems on those short weeks that both teams end up being more banged up than what they usually be and saying, hey, why the hell are we doing this?
Yeah.
But then Roger Goodell lays out a 17-game plan over the weekend, and who knows. One last thing that you didn't like from yesterday's game, Kevin, and while you can, on one hand, like Jacoby Brissett's presence in the pocket, his escapability, the passing game efficiency is still something that needs some work.
And efficiency is the key word. I'm not saying production. I'm saying efficiency.
Yeah.
You ran for 264, most rushing yards you've had in 15 years. I'm not expecting 300 yards out of the passing offense.
Don't need it.
And this is not all on Jacoby Brissette either. I want to make that abundantly clear. But the efficiency of the passing game is still not at the level that you need it to be to do some serious damage in the month of January. You had 148 passing yards on 24 attempts. It's a under 6 yard per attempt number. That includes a Jonathan Williams almost give-up play, a 3rd and 19 screen. Again, it's the vertical passing game that still isn't getting enough. It's not even just like straight vertical. It's like semi-vertical.
Yeah.
10-yard routes, things like that. And, I include pass protection in this. I include Brissette, and I include the wideouts that just aren't winning. They aren't winning enough. And if you can't get Hilton back for Thursday and no Funchess and no Campbell, it'll be a storyline again on Thursday of when you do what you did on Sunday, that draws just even more attention from opposing teams to try and stop the run. Can you get back to the Atlanta game? Can you get back to the first Houston game? Now, obviously, Hilton was a huge presence in those games. So I think the only way you can save this right now is getting Hilton back.
Yeah.
I can't see it all of a sudden improving that drastically. So yeah, Jacoby Brissette slightly inaccurate on a few throws. He had maybe a drop or two. The interception I don't put on him. I thought that was actually a pretty good play by that DB and Pascal. Could have had a shot at it for sure. Just 2 catches for Pascal and 6 targets. No targets for Jack Doyle.
Yeah, I remember they were talking about that on the broadcast.
It's kind of a rare thing that you see there. But, again, it is passing game efficiency. Need to be more efficient in that area.
All right, you want to do some Victory Monday Twitter questions?
Yes. Let's
Sweet. All right, we got to start with Cody. Cody Felger, I know it's been overshadowed by 2 bad losses, but the Colts defense has been legit since after the Raiders game. What do you think is holding them back from being a top 5 defense?
Probably just a little bit more like kind of balance in the front of that group. I think the interior pass rush hasn't been as menacing as you would like it to be. So again, just kind of more balance up front with that pass rush as well. And creating turnovers has been something we've seen a little bit more as of late, but I think that was an issue for this team earlier in the season. So yeah, to be top 5, I think those things would stand out. But yeah, I mean they have been, and like I said on Sunday, it was not just kind of relying on this red zone defense to save the day like they have been so good for about the past 5 games or so in that area. It was they were shutting Jacksonville down for the most part, in the course of the playing field.
From Jake, he wants to know, does Marcus Johnson, actually I think I might have skipped one. I did. I tried to look over Country Boy Eddie there. Sorry, Country. Before the season, someone told you the Colts would be 6-4. A, would you be pleased with that? And B, who would you think the losses would be against?
Well, I guess it depends on when, before Andrew Luck retirement, after. I think after, you'd definitely be pleased. Before, there might be some people that were greedy and would want 7-3 or 8-2. Who did I think the losses would be against at 6-4? Chargers, Steelers, Chiefs.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, besides the Chiefs, it hasn't changed.
I would say Texans or Falcons would have been the other team I would have thrown in there. Now, obviously, the Falcons haven't.
Yeah, they
played better as of late, but have not really lived up to it. Your Steelers have had the unfortunate injury situation.
Right.
So, yeah, that's how I would look at it.
Now this is from Jake. He wants to know, does Marcus Johnson's production yesterday highlight the struggles of Kane this year?
I think where it highlights that, Joey, is just the reliability. Marcus Johnson, I mean, look at the off-script play. Johnson keeps himself alive, makes a play in the end zone. I know it sounds bad, but does Kane give up on that route? Does Kane keep himself as alive as Marcus Johnson did? Now, I was surprised that Pittsburgh obviously has all the injuries they have on Thursday night at receiver. So they sign Deon Cain off the Colts practice squad. That means he's got to be on Pittsburgh's 53-man roster for at least 3 weeks.
Uh-huh.
So they've got some sort of tie to him. The Colts could have promoted him to their 53-man roster and then made a corresponding roster move. So if the Colts really, really liked Deon Cain, they would have said, see you, Chad Kelly. Here comes Deon Cain up to the 53.
Mm-hmm. And Cain's going to be playing against Cincinnati this weekend for Pittsburgh.
Right.
Like
and maybe, honestly, maybe Cain looked at it and said, I'm going to have a role in Pittsburgh.
Right.
Even if I get called up here in Indianapolis with 3 injuries to Campbell and to Funchess and to Hilton, I'm not seeing the field. So you often see that. Gary Green, a 6th-round pick for the Colts. They wanted him back here on their practice squad initially after he was cut at the end of the preseason. He goes, there's a logjam there. I'm going to New England where maybe I have a better chance, which makes sense. Jonathan Williams, why would he be run-of-the-mill in New Orleans again? Or he felt like fresh blood in Indianapolis. Let's go there and see if I can carve out a role. Zach Pascal.
Yeah.
Things like that. So this happens a lot, but the Colts were not. Now, I know it sounds like a far cry now. Going into Sunday's game, they did not need roster numbers that much. If they really, really wanted, they could have made a spot for Cain. Even initially, they could have re-signed him to their 53, last week instead of re-signing him to their practice squad once you knew Jacoby Brissette was good to go. There's no need to have a third quarterback.
Right.
No need.
From Joshua Sutton, was Williams' breakout performance more a product of better O-line play and bad run D, or did you see some things from him that would lead you to believe he could be the guy going forward until Mack returns?
Well, I do think it was better offensive line blocking and the wideouts, and hell, I saw Eric Ebron throw a little block in there as
he
well.
mentioned that he's going to get one of those hats now.
Yeah.
After the game.
Good to see that coming in there for Thanksgiving. Williams was good. And I do think, if we want to look at Thursday, Joey, I think Frank Reich would roll with Williams or Wilkins and leave Nyheim Hines in that third down role. I don't think you would change the role for Hines. I'm going to be really curious because, I don't want to undersell the season Marlon Mack has had because I think Marlon Mack has created a lot of yards on his own. And he definitely did on that, spin move touchdown. But I also felt like on Sunday, that offensive line was outstanding. They did a lot of really, really good work. So, do we find out more about Marlon Mack here in the next few weeks if he does miss a couple of games of man, when he runs behind that line, he finds a few more yards than other backs? Mm-hmm. Or is this more of just a Colts offensive line's really dominant and Jordan Wilkins averages over 5 yards per carry when he's back there? And so we'll see how Frank Reich wants to divvy up those carries because remember last year Wilkins, hardly ever touched the ball late, and I feel like Mack is better as the game kind of moves along. I tweeted it at halftime on Sunday. I'm like, the Colts have got to get back to running the football.
Yeah. Because
that pass protection, it ain't holding up. No. Josh Allen is going to be in the back. Braden Smith is just getting turned, and it's just
right.
It was not pretty there. And the Mark Lewinsky recovered fumble was a huge play.
Was that did that set up the third 19, or was that different?
That was the last drive of the first half.
There.
So you could have been tied at half or down.
Yeah.
That was a massive play with I think a minute 20 to go in the first half. So if I'm guessing, and again, this is early Monday morning, and the week's still got to play out, I'd say it's either Williams or Wilkins as your starter on Thursday. And then when Matt gets back, maybe Williams sneaks his way into 6 carries a game. But, Wilkins was kind of still getting that even here recently. Mm-hmm. But I still think you want Marlon around 18 or 20 carries.
Yeah. Don't get it twisted.
Right. This is a guy that, had the second most carries in the league, I think, behind Christian McCaffrey. And we'll see. Hopefully for Mack, it's something he can play through, or it's not that severe to where, you put him on IR and, which would virtually end his season.
From Conroy, wants to know, how long was your longest keg stand?
Oh, God. I've definitely done them, Joey. I must say.
You didn't. I was lucky enough to be at your wedding, your reception. There wasn't anything like that happening there.
No. That's not. I don't think that's the place to be doing a cake stand. Don't know how much Grandma Lubbers would have loved that.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I lived in the Varsity Villas, so I definitely did a cake stand. I'm not a great chugger, quote unquote.
Yeah, me either.
But I'd say I've given a good effort, about 15-ish, 20 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah.
I've never done a cake stand.
Really?
Really. Don't get me wrong. I love a good keg. Just never done a stand.
So you would have been kind of Pascal or
more of a cake sit guy.
Ebron. You would have kind of just the social drink
for sure
outside of it.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Let's get into the cake stand.
All right.
It's all Quint Nelson's idea.
Yep. He
said Bud Light would be his beer of choice in the cake.
Perfect.
We know full well, Joey, Quint Nelson parties.
Oh yeah.
We saw the guy. We saw the videos of Taylor Lewan.
We saw the questions coming in, and some people over the summer were like, "Are we concerned?
Yeah,
is Nelson okay? What's going on?"
Yeah, I had someone tweeted me like, "I just saw the Colts offensive line at the Waste Management Open, which is that crazy golf tournament in Scottsdale, where it's kind of like a football environment." He's like, "They had been drinking." I'm like, "Okay, it's the off season,
right.
They're allowed to do that." But yeah, he's a 23-year-old that is just 18 months removed from college, and yeah, some stories I've heard from people that have seen him at the bars or seen him at the Indy 500. He likes to have a good time.
Just look at the guy. He's
Yeah.
340 pounds. His nickname is Big Q, for God's sakes, who has a mustache. He set himself up pretty nicely, though, with the Bud Light. I mean, that's a potential endorsement.
Huge.
Yeah.
Great job by him.
Brilliant. Notre Dame degree going to work there.
Exactly. And honestly, the execution was flawless.
I heard you talking to Jeff Sattery on the Fan Morning Show on Monday morning, this morning, and you asked kind of how does that process come about? Like, is that practice during the week? What do we find out there?
So Nelson said that they've practiced it twice, and for whichever offensive lineman would score, he's doing the stand.
Okay.
So, remember Costanzo caught a pass against New England a couple years ago? He did his
great play. The little
Street Fighter.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, is that Street Fighter? Is that what it was?
I think it is. Someone will correct me. But Mark Lewinsky's always been the keg. He's the stout guy.
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
then Braden Smith and Joe Haig and I think Ryan Kelly held him up. And Ryan Kelly said after the game, "Hey, if you add up the offensive linemen, we've done over 100 keg stands in our life." No, he was dead serious.
Ryan Kelly is another guy that it's like, okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And Nelson said it's been a while since he's done a keg stand because it's in season.
Yeah.
So, maybe the bye week this weekend, you get the weekend off, throw a little kegger to open up your Saturday, watch Notre Dame, Boston College. I would have liked to have seen Chad Kelly involved.
Oof.
Like maybe Chad Kelly in the end zone doing flip cup with somebody.
I'm sure he was really itching to get out there.
He was.
He really wanted to be a part of that.
You think it's like the strength coach is holding Chad Kelly back on the sideline?
He started to get, that flavor, that taste on your lips. It just tastes so good once it like Will Ferrell style, once it touches your lips.
He sees him doing it in practice, and he's like, "Oh, you guys need help? You guys need like an extra person to come in there? You guys, I can hold his legs." Like
Frank Reich's like, no.
Exactly. Easy.
No.
Easy.
Not running out of any Thanksgiving parties
but
this year.
Seriously, dude, I love offensive linemen celebrating.
No, it was great. So they had to have known, like, if they say that whichever offensive lineman scored, so in the back of their mind, they have to know the least that Frank's going to dial something up for an lineman down there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this was something they've thought about. And again, all Nelson's idea. He told the boys this is what we're going to do. I'm still laughing at the ref calling that a touchdown.
Yeah, that was really bad because he was the one that had the angle to see Nelson holding the ball. And
the opposite ref didn't.
Right.
Yeah, he had the better angle. That celebration will never, just because the touchdown was overturned, that celebration will live in infamy.
And everybody bought in. Jacoby was down there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even Jack Doyle was laughing.
Ebron
and chugging.
Pascal right there. Yeah.
That was awesome.
It was perfect. You had the social drinkers on the outside,
For sure. Yeah.
It was perfect. Yeah, you have the pregnant chick like, "Oh, God, I'm glad I got my solo cup here so no one knows what's in it." Perfect.
Ryan Kelly strikes me as a Miller Lite kind of guy and then, like, gets up and then throws in just a huge lip of, like, Copenhagen. Maybe that's just the Alabama in him.
No, I think you could be honest with it. Ryan Kelly strikes me as a guy that he can chug.
Yeah.
These
are the important questions.
This is what I wrote an article on it.
Yeah.
I was like, I have to write it because the amount of seriousness out of Quentin Nelson's face in describing everything that went into the cake stand was incredible.
And I think this speaks even more, too, to just, like, remember when Quentin Nelson was coming into his rookie year and even mostly during his rookie year, how, like, quiet and just awkward and no fun he seemed like. And it's just totally flipped in year two.
There is a lot of personality there. You don't see it in, like, Eric Ebron personality ways, but there is a lot in there. And I need a Bud Light commercial, I need a cake stand, and I need it tomorrow.
My favorite thing I still think from Quentin Nelson is when he did that promo for the Bussin' with the Boys with Taylor Lewan.
Oh, yeah.
He somehow just said, "Be sure to list and subscribe." List, dude. List and subscribe. God. So funny.
He's one of a kind.
Yeah. Okay. We might do some more articles or something about all that on 1075thefan.com, so stay tuned. Speaking of beer, we got Diesel, my guy Big Diesel down in Austin, Texas, Danny Cox. He asks, if we can agree that Brissette is Dak with a slightly better arm, would you sign him to a 2-3 year contract extension for less than $27 million per year?
It's a really good question, Danny. Thanks for listening. I mean, do you feel like you have to do something with Brissette this coming off season contract-wise? 2-year deal that he signed, back in.
I'd say no.
So you would ride him into the lame duck. What if Brissette comes to you and says he wants a new contract?
Cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I think we're to the point now where the Colts believe that Jacoby Brissette, and by that I mean Chris Ballard and Frank Reich, they believe they can build something around Jacoby Brissette. Now, the question becomes, how much do they believe? Do they believe Dak money? Or whatever, 2 years, or do they believe the 5 for 100 X amount of million? That is the question. I'm with you, Joey. I don't know.
Because if they gave that kind of show of faith before this year, right? After Luck retires and everything.
Right, yeah, the 2 year for whatever it was, 15, something like that.
I mean, I think that's fair that they could say, yeah, we just did this before you had even become really our guy.
And then you've drafted a wideout, you think, in the middle-ish rounds? Or a quarterback?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll be really curious. I wish I had a better gauge on it. All I can say is, again, the Colts love him. I'd be very, very surprised if Jacoby Brissette was not the starter week 1, 2020.
Let's see. From Suarez, since there's no pod before Thursday's game, what are your keys for a win in Houston?
Well, health is going to factor into everything, Joey. How your secondary holds up against those wideouts, I would say, is key number 1. And also, I feel like on a short week, don't you just want to pound your O-line?
Oh, yeah.
I
ride those boys.
Houston just got obliterated. Like, I don't know. I feel like just kind of gashing them and going that route and making them tired. And
it's not like they haven't done it before on the road in Kansas City this year and the playoffs last year against Houston.
Against a much better front. No J.J. Watt, second time around.
No Clowney. I know he's more of a pass rusher.
Right, but still. So, yeah, those are a couple keys that I'd be looking into.
Casey wants to know, what's your confidence level on Williams being able to maintain good production with Mack missing some time?
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like 7 yards per carry is going to become the norm. But I also don't think that, like, we're going to look at Thursday night and be like, man, Marlon Mack was the reason the Colts lost this game, or not have. I don't think there's that big of a drop off. And I don't know. Maybe that's kind of how I look at running backs, which is kind of unfair because Marlon Mack's been really good this season. Yeah. But I just don't think there's this steep, immense drop off of T.Y. Hilton to your next wideout, Marlon Mack to your next running back. Does that make sense?
We're going to see on Thursday.
I mean, you're 0-1. Yeah. I mean, you're 0-1 whatever without Hilton until yesterday. So.
Oh, yeah, that was nice. Break that little trend there.
Yes, yeah, and scored 33 points without it.
For sure. From Brian, he says, if fully healthy and if they make the playoffs, will the Colts have a realistic shot at beating the Patriots? The Pats' offense has been horrible, and their run defense is their, quote, weakness.
Okay, rank these teams. Kansas City, New England, Baltimore. If you're the Colts, who would you most like to face?
Probably in that order.
Kansas City, Baltimore, New England?
No.
Kansas City, New England, Baltimore?
Actually, no, you're right the first time.
Kansas City, Baltimore, New England.
I'll say Baltimore just because, to me, you're going to be going on the road to either Baltimore or to New England.
Right.
And if I'm taking my choice of yes, while Lamar Jackson, I'll admit, has been really, really good, and the Ravens are a really, really good team, even though I hate to say it, they are.
You were yelling at me a few weeks ago when I said Lamar for MVP.
Yeah, I mean, so somebody, I think Schefter put out there, the stats are about the same as Tyrod Taylor's from 2017 or whatever it was, so that doesn't change. But he has been really, really good. He's electric, all that stuff. My point is, I would still rather face a second-year Lamar Jackson and the Ravens than Tom Brady in New England. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, as much as we can say this New England defense, who have they played? This New England defense, they're winning a bunch of close games. They still are getting it done, man. And I don't know, just that history, and I don't think there's a huge separation between, any of them that stands out to me. I think it would be good, though, for the Colts to, Kansas City and Baltimore have the potential to put up 30 in a blink of an eye, especially Kansas City. And I think the Colts are much better equipped to avoid those shootouts. That would be the one reason I'd want to maybe be like, okay, New England, you always feel like it's never going to be
right
getting away from you. That would be the one reason that I would say New England.
From Eric Richardson, how has Marvell Tell improved since his atrocious preseason?
I just think growth. I mean, he's making a position change. He's becoming an outside corner, something he never did in college. And Matt Eberflus has definitely mentioned that he's practicing better. And, I mean, clearly the Colts have given him a bigger role than Quincy Wilson. And, I mean, some might argue Marvell Tell has been better than Rock Ya-Sin here over the past few games. So I just think in general it's growth because this is a guy that we probably thought redshirt year.
Right.
When he was first drafted.
Let's see. From Laura, what will the practice schedule look like during this short week? Should we expect mostly walkthroughs, especially with the fact that everyone is banged up?
Yes. Yep. No full practices by any means. A walkthrough Monday, a walkthrough Tuesday. That's it. I mean, that's all you're doing on the field. You get on a plane Wednesday and you're going to Houston. Yeah, so it'll be kind of an estimation of the injury report. I think the final injury report comes Wednesday. So we'll have all these updates on 1075thefan.com. I'll break down all the injuries, and we'll get an idea of – and we're going to monitor roster moves, Joey. Again, the Colts haven't put too many guys on injury reserve this year.
Yeah.
They really haven't. Do we start to see more of that? And putting people on injury reserve right now, their injuries might only be a month. But that's what happens late in the year.
Yep.
Guys go on injury reserve for, not the craziest of injuries.
From Stan Cal, he says, I've got one question. It's 10 games in, so I kind of hoped I'd have an answer by now, but after every week, I find myself struggling more and more to answer it. Who are the 2019 Indianapolis Colts?
Stan, that is a great stretch for me to start my Monday. No voice cracks so far. I got to knock on wood.
Those are always funny, though, when you get those in there.
Yeah. I saw my guy Chris Vangman this weekend. We had a good laugh about it. Okay, so I think they're a good football team, which to me means better than average. And I'm still just torn on just kind of that teetering of, okay, does that mean 4th or 5th in the AFC, which means, 9 or 10 in the league? Or is it like 6 or 7 in the AFC and 14 or 15 in the league, which I know is such a fine line, but that's kind of where we're at. And I really want to see these wideouts get healthy. That's what I want to see. It's like, okay, the defense has played pretty darn good here as of late. Can that continue? And then what happens when the wideouts get healthy? Does that improve this offense, or is this offense kind of what we thought it would be? And that's, if they play well, 24-ish points a game, and that's kind of where their ceiling is at.
From Jabroni, he says, I noticed Coach Reich likes to defer to the second half. Any chance he has the team ready for the potential onside kick? Nightmares from that Saints Super Bowl second half kickoff still happens.
I don't know about that. But, yeah, he always likes to defer, likes to get those 2 scores, late half. Colts have won like 8 of 10 coin tosses this year. And, hey, shout out to Adam Vinatieri.
There you go. Nice contribution.
Made his 5 kicks. Thought the ball just was better coming off his foot. Just looked a little bit better. Lambeau missed his first field goal of the year. So, yeah, Adam Vinatieri, 4 extra points and the 1 field goal. Big.
From Mac Me a Sandwich, we finally saw Coach Reich utilize 2 running backs in the backfield at the same time. That play ended up resulting in a decent-sized run. Should we be using this look more often with our abundance of competent runners?
Well, I think you want to tap into it, too, because you aren't getting what you need out of your wideouts. So that would be a reason why I think you would want to look into that a little bit more as well.
Lucas Robbins asks, if T.Y. is able to play in Thursday night versus the Texans, should the game plan still be to run the damn ball with Jonathan Williams as the starter at running back, or should we trust T.Y. to be able to beat the Texans as usual over the top?
Well, I mean, you're obviously going to mix and match. You want to make sure if Houston's got the banged-up secondary that you do test them vertically. I mean, if Hilton plays, you got to use them. So, yeah, I mean, you still, I think, need to certainly try to incorporate your best offensive player. But I still think the majority of it is, okay, establish the run, try to have the same blueprint. against the Texans defensive line that really struggled on Sunday against Baltimore.
Colts Law says if Wilkins' ankle is healthy enough this Thursday, who's getting the lion's share of carries? Him or Williams? Or do you think it'll be pretty evenly split?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say pretty evenly split if both those two guys were healthy, but that's the question. Is Wilkins going to be healthy as well? So I think one of those two guys will be kind of your lead bell cow, and the other one will supplement that, and Nyheim Hines will stick to the third down role.
Jay brings up an interesting point. He had to do a little research here. Or maybe you already did this research, and he's just taking it from you. I don't know. Either way, good stat here from Jay. Says since 2007, the Colts have played 13 Thursday night football games, and 10 out of 13 have been on the road. How high does this conspiracy go?
Yeah, I did notice that. Boy, that's bad. 10 of 13 on the road.
Yeah.
Home to Pittsburgh on Thanksgiving a few years ago.
Yep.
2011 season, they were home. I think that was one of their only wins that year.
It was late December.
Denver. Weren't they at home against Denver a couple years ago? Color Rush?
Yep.
That's it. Those are the three.
The JD Byron
yeah, it's
game.
weird. I wasn't so much on like the outside of not having a Thursday night game this year, like nothing on the home schedule screams primetime.
No.
Nothing on that home schedule this year outside of, again, maybe like a Houston. But yeah, why wasn't that on a prime time? I don't know. It's something that has definitely been really odd. I don't think the Colts have been that bad, though, on Thursday nighters. They've won one in Houston. I know they won one in Tennessee. So I don't think it's like killed them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that you're like, wait, what? This doesn't add up.
From Colin, with the Colts' vertical passing game struggling in large part because the Colts don't currently have any healthy wide receivers with vertical skill sets, that is, what are some ways you'd like to see Reich solve for loaded boxes? More screens, more creative Hines usage, more jet sweep?
Yeah, all really good points. I would say just more kind of underneath crossers, which, again, I know without Campbell, that's the best guy suited for that. Can you try and utilize Chester Rogers' speed a little bit more in the open field? Marcus Johnson and Pascal don't strike me. I mean, Pascal's your kick returner, so shouldn't he be a guy that you'd like to get the ball in his hands kind of in open field?
Why does every time Chester Rogers does anything, I'm like, oh yeah, he's still here.
He had a few punt returns on Sunday that was like, oh God.
I swear every catch he makes, I'm like, oh yeah, Rogers. That's right.
Yeah. I would say, along with those ideas that Colin brings up, again, it's the more underneath crossers that I would like to see. Just get free runners going horizontally and then letting those guys make a play after the catch. Because I think that was a big part of what Frank Reich did in San Diego and a little bit in Philly as well. And we just haven't seen as much of the yards after catch ability here in Indianapolis. And right now, there is nothing vertically that's happening.
From Colts fan 3132, they want to know, do we sign a running back or cornerback or both for Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to, if Wilkins is out, you're going to have to sign a running back, and it's probably likely you're going to have to sign a corner. You got a couple in your practice squad, I believe, both positions. I think you got a running back and a corner. So, obviously, if you're going to sign someone from the outside, you would have to do that today. And as of taping this at 11 a.m. on Monday, we haven't seen anything like that. But, I would think that it all comes down to the Wilkins health for running back. Corner, I guess you could get by if you think Roland Milligan could go play over there in a pinch. But, I mean, again, Shaq Taylor, Rock Yassin, Pierre Desir, all injured right now. And George Odom at safety.
Oh, let's see here. Sorry, scrolling through. Bad radio. Okay, from Jeremy. We are injured and can't seem to develop a pass rush outside of blitzing. What does Quincy Wilson and Taekwon Lewis have to do to get on the field, even though Taekwon Lewis was active?
Yeah, and played in the third down package. Quincy Wilson, what does he have to do to get on the field? Well, he needed injuries, and injuries happened. So I think we're going to see Quincy Wilson, potentially a lot, on Thursday night. Unless Pierre Desir gets healthy and the Rock Yassin, Shaq Taylor stuff isn't as serious, or that they can get out there on a short week. Lewis was pretty quiet, though. Don't know if he had a stat. And let me look at snap counts. Taekwon Lewis, I do not see him listed in the game book for tackles, and he played 21 snaps. So, yeah, that kind of continued the Taekwon Lewis we saw earlier in the year. But, yeah, I mean, pass rush in general, it's just, I think it's more of a personnel thing up in the front.
From Jack, hopefully it's not too late for the pod. It's not. He wants to know, if we lose in Houston on Thursday, what's the breakdown of tiebreakers for the division moving forward if we were to miraculously have the same record when all is said and done?
So head-to-head would obviously be split.
Yep.
And then the next tiebreaker is games within your division. Colts are undefeated. A loss on Thursday would mean one loss in the AFC South. They only have home to Tennessee and at Jacksonville left. The Texans have already swept Jacksonville. They have Tennessee twice in the last 3 weeks of the year. So let's say, for some reason, they both go 5-1 in the division. I think the next one is common games. So the games you play against the same teams. Mm-hmm. So that would be the AFC North games, the NFC South games. You would throw out, no, sorry, not the AFC North.
I was going to say
the AFC West and the NFC South games. Yep. So you'd throw out the loss to Baltimore and the loss to Pittsburgh. Good news for the Colts, you would throw out the loss to Miami. And Houston plays New England after the Thursday night game.
Yikes.
So, I mean, they still got a big game. But, yeah, those that's the breakdown tiebreakers. After that, I think it's – I don't even know what the hell is after that, to be honest with you. Strength of schedule probably gets thrown in there at some point.
Yeah. Those are three.
Those are the big three. It's really hard to get past that.
From Craig, what a win, he says. Can Chris Ballard get kickers in every week? I believe Vinny hasn't missed a kick the 2 weeks they brought in kickers to compete with him.
Yeah, that has helped. And I don't know, was it timing? Tempo timing thing? Vinny mentioned that. I don't know if that improved, but certainly the ball was kicked much, much better.
From Patrick, and this is the last one I have here, Kevin. With Robbie Gould set to return for the 49ers, and they are unlikely to keep Chase McLaughlin on the 53-man roster, do you see the Colts putting a claim in on him or bringing him in? On the year, he's 3 of 4 on field goals and 8 of 8 on extra points.
I don't. No, I don't. I think at this point they're going to ride out Vinny. And he would have to screw up again for them to make a move.
Yeah,
I think that's where we're at. I don't think Chase McLaughlin is that highly sought after that, like, oh, yeah, as soon as he gets waived, we're going to claim him. I don't think it's that at all.
All right, man. So we won't be back with a pod before Thursday's game against Houston.
Correct.
So what do we have coming up this week to look for? What are we watching for from the Colts? And then when will we be back?
Yeah, we'll have a ton of written content up on the website. Again, that is 1075thefan.com. So check that out. That'll have your updates. My Twitter account, KBowen1070. Heading out to the Colts right now after we press stop on this edition of Kevin's Corner. Friday, work for you? Come back for a recap?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
We will come back then Friday with a recap pod, and then next week we'll probably do like a Tuesday, Wednesday sort of pod, and then we'll get back again into our Monday, Thursday sort of routine after that. So
cool.
That's how we'll handle things moving forward. And, yeah, he's Joey Molinaro. I'm Kevin Bowen. Everyone have a great week, and we'll be back on Friday recapping a big one, Colts and Texans from Houston. This has been Kevin Bowen. Thank you for listening to another edition of Kevin's Corner. If you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher for the best Colts and Pacers coverage.